Nice big piece of lime, nice piece of wood to carve. Took me far longer than it probably should have. Okay, it's bitterly cold outside. It's a nice day for a carving project. Got a magazine article due. Good impetus to do one. So, I saw a lovely panel. We went around Worcester Cathedral the other day. We spent the morning bouncing on some trampolines, and I discovered that maybe 40 is too old for that. And then the afternoon, we had a look around Worcester Cathedral with some friends. Some gorgeous carvings all over there, but there was one panel that took my eye, and I thought that would make a really nice project. So it's kind of got some kind of stylized leaves, and alternate. One is textured, one is not, and I kind of quite liked the kind of sweeping shapes of it, and I thought that'd make a nice drawer front. I've got a drawer in the pantry, thought it might make a cool drawer front for that. So I've got a nice piece of lime from out of the shed. It's quite a nice piece of wood. There's a few blemishes, a few weird bits on it, but I need 280 by 99, so 280 by 990. So I'm going to cut that out of here, plane it up, and then we can kind of draw our design. I'm going to leave a board around it, draw a design on it, leave somewhere for a handle, see what we can make. Let's get going. Okay, so it's kind of a case of looking at this, making sure I keep the grain relatively straight. Looks like I want to kind of rip across there, come down 280. It's going to be most of this board, to be honest with you. And then I'm going to cut that end off, it's split. So we'll go for about 1 metre. Yeah, we're going to get it out of this one. This was the better of the two. I think we'll use the track saw to start with. We'll dimension it down, but let's just hope it's a good piece of wood underneath this. There's a lot of kind of crap around this area. It's often the trouble when you buy big boards, you have to end up paying for the rubbish as well, but you know, that's that and that. If I had a big wide planer, I'd probably put it through that first, in all honesty. Right, it's giving me an edge to work to. I can now measure off, cut it roughly where I want, and then we can get it in the planer. Okay, nowhere near what I'd call a perfect piece of wood for carving. Because it's for myself and because it's for a drawer front, I think it'd be fine. So you can see there's quite, well, this side's worse. There's some worm in there, bit of woodworm, and I reckon this is probably a fracture from, I think it fell down this tree. So whether that's where it hit something as it came down, or poor felling if they did fell it. So there's some cracks in it that way, but they don't go very far in. But I think we use this side, and it has got this lovely rippled kind of effect on the wood. And what we'll try and do with some of these splits and shakes is we'll kind of incorporate them into the design a little bit. I think you can get too fussy when it's for yourself anyway. It's kind of a skill building exercise. I think it'll look quite nice when it's done. We might stain it down a little darker anyway, which will hide that a little bit. Lime's very pale wood anyway. So, sand this up now, get it looking nice. And then we can draw ourselves a board around it, and we can doodle on it really. A doodle-loo. the first started, I got very tied up in my head about getting these kind of lines perfect. But your eye is really quite forgiving, and kind of, you know, if it was perfect, it's more like it's machine made. So don't worry, just go nice and steady. Keep your hands, you know, got the one hand, the other hand kind of guides it, one pushes, one kind of holds it in tension. Feels like I'm going against the grain there actually. Okay, so I've got to try and draw it now. Oh, there is it drawn up. I think it's now time to set the router up. It's already taken a long time, and we're going to hoof out some waste. Hoof! With just a straight cutter and a plunge bit. I don't know how deep we'll go. That is really deep. Don't think we'll go as deep as that. I think it's only 21mm thick anyway. So we say maybe 12mm. We can hoof out some of these bits, and then we can chop, chop, chop. So I use my cordless Makita router, superb bit of kit. And I'm going to change the bit out. That's got a chamfer bit on there now. We'll change it out for a straight bit. I'm going to use that tiny little bit. I think will do the job. It means we can get in tighter. We're going to do this freehand, which I kind of hate doing. Tip for the top with router: never try to pull the bit out like that, because I have cut my fingers before now. There is normally a hole at the back here. You can shove something down like a nail punch. If it's stuck in there, it comes out nice and easy. So put this nice little bit in there. Make sure it goes up to the lines, make sure it's in far enough. Years ago I was at college and a lad put one in, Adam his name was, nice lad, and about 10 seconds later we all had to take cover as it flew around the workshop. Oh, good old days. Oh, butterfingers. And we will clamp the workpiece down. But what we will do first of all, we will set a depth stop. So we'll set it so that it can't go deeper than I want it to go. So I reckon about there is about... How do you do this one? Obviously doing stuff freehand, what we don't want to do is stuff to move around. It just makes it even harder, doesn't it? So we'll clamp it down, probably have to move the clamps as we go, because they're going to be in the way at some point, so don't worry about it too much. We'll just hoof one out to start with, and we'll see what it kind of looks like. Obviously extraction is difficult, and much as I love to hoover up the dust, just cut it my eye. I'm just going to have the air scrubber going, because I can't have dust extraction on there and see what I'm doing. So kind of like, yeah, rock and hard place. So let's get the air scrubber running up on the workshop, and we'll do that instead. Max speed. Actually, it's like, with something like this, it's amazing the amount of control you've got. I mean, lime's quite a soft wood. It's a really sharp new bit, which really helps, obviously, as well. But, you see this. Hoofed ourselves out. A nice little divot. So, I can do that the rest now. I fear that may have been the easy bit done. So now what we've got is two different types of leaves, really. We've got the kind of inverse ones, so these ones are going to kind of dip down in the middle, and like, converse doesn't really sound right. The ones where the leaves are going to go from the middle downwards down to these lower bits. So on the inverse of these, we're going to have to undercut. So using some different chisels. And then on these ones, we're going to bring it much closer to this base that we've kind of done. It's quite a big carving. I think I may have done, I probably should have done half as much as this. I'm gonna have this finished by Monday. So yeah, so I can literally take some out the middle of these, like hoof out some waste now, using like a nice wide shallow gouge. Well, it's not that shallow. It's probably, was it number 6? Yeah, number 6 gouge. But what I actually want to do is probably get tidying up these edges to start with. They're all quite crisp on the carving, so it doesn't matter too much. It's my own interpretation of it. But I can, you know, start to... So I think it's best to undercut these a little bit. And then what that means then as well is we can... Where we have them overlapping each other, which always gives that kind of beautiful sense of depth, we can also do that as well now. So we can kind of, I don't know how deep we'll go. Probably be fine. And we'll lessen that one there. And that kind of gives it that kind of that sweepingness of it. So, and obviously giving ourselves a line to go up to means that when we kind of scoop, we're not going to flick off any other bits. Flick up any bits and flip it off. Also, by doing this now, kind of gets it in your head which one's on top, which one's underneath, which is quite important as you kind of go on, because it's very easy with something like this to try to get confused, basically. So it might be worth going around actually doing that before I do anything else. I might clamp this down as well. I'm not worried too much about the bases of these. We're going to texture those in a little bit. But let's do the overlaps. You see, I just kind of undercut that a little bit. Smooth that line out. That looks really cool. So, just got to do that now. On all of this! Oh no! Okay, that was quite a lot of work there, but I've kind of like lined it in now. So we've lowered the background and we've lined it in and we've got it relatively tidy. And now the idea is we have kind of convex and concave leaves going across here. So I'll start on the concave ones, remember which one they are. And I've undercut these ones a bit more than the others because the others will come down more to the edges. These I'm going to scoop out the middle, I think is the plan. This is quite a nice size, about 3/4 of an inch. Maybe it's about 20mm. And obviously the key with this one is to make sure that you're working with the grain. So, you know, I'm going to be cutting on the one side on the way down and on the other side on the way up. And I could flip it round when I'm doing it. And what I want these kind of ribs to kind of flow off into the leaves. I think that's the kind of the idea. And because it's lime, it does carve nice and easy. And we're going to go right up to the edge. We might have to give ourselves some stopping points. So what we might have to do is lower where we're coming up to the edge, I think. Work on it that way. And we're kind of using our body. So you can see here, this side where we're cutting down, so you go one way on the grain, that side cuts smooth, but that side's left quite rough. So what we need to do is kind of bring that down to the middle and then come up the other way on the other side. Kind of work into areas where we've got some waste out of it. Oh, you can tell instantly when you start going the wrong way with the grain. It's very easy to do it as well. I mean, it doesn't matter how much experience you get, you're gonna start and go, oh no. Oh yes, much better. So, it's just a case of shaping this, and shaping each one, and as we go, kind of smoothing it out. So we've shaped out these leaves now, these concave ones. I'm also going to shape the leaves as well, so kind of like dip them down at the ends in a few places, keep them higher at a few others. These are the leaves on top really, so the other ones need to go lower, but we should be able to do that as we shape the other ones really. So I'm gonna just carry on with these for a little bit and see if I can get this looking like I'm gonna finish it by tomorrow. At the moment, it doesn't feel very likely. Okay, so the rough shaping done. I wish I had done this on a smaller piece to start with, because it's taken forever. I've got a blister come on my hand. which doesn't happen very often these days. So I'm kind of happy with this. It's probably a bit more tooled than I like. The wood's quite ripply. I'm not going to blame the wood. I think this lime's quite nice to work. The marks in it kind of just blend away a little bit. So I think now what I might do is texture the background. I've got some. I've got just like a little textured punch which I'm going to put on there. See what kind of pace I can go at with it. It's quite boring. Probably worse to watch though. One bit textured. Only about 20 more to go. Do a bit more and go pick the kids up from school. I imagine if they had apprentices, this would be a job for them. Fairly low skill. So as per usual, with a project like this, there's always some decisions to make. Now, I've textured the background. I want to add some details to the leaves in a bit, but what I'm wondering now is, should I sand them? They are quite heavily tooled. It's whether that's good enough, really, or whether I want them smoother. So I have sanded one there, which I kind of like it. And I'm wondering now, although it's quite a bit of work, I'll have to do it by hand because I don't have like a rotary sander that's any good. And also the fact that you have to kind of sand with the grain. So you've got lots of short bits. It's all right on something like this here. And you've got to sand everything a few times because you've got to work up through the grit, otherwise you'll leave lots of scratch marks in it. So it's a tricky one. What do I do? I think I'm going to sand it. Just dampening it down kind of raises the grain a little bit, lets you kind of sand it a little bit better. So I got a much smoother finish now. Now that I've kind of gone over and sanded it, I keep seeing bits. It's always the trouble, especially with something this big. Sorry. What I'm going to do now is use this punch with the circle on it. And I'm going to punch circles. It's going to look a little bit like an octopus, I imagine. But what it does is differentiate between the concave ones and the convex leaves. But we'll do that. See what happens. I'm just going to randomly place them. I imagine they're going to show up, well, not imagine, I know they're going to show up a lot more when I oil it. So there's that side of it as well. Need to be careful where I've kind of undercut it quite heavily, especially in the middle. I undercut it a bit more. Obviously don't want to put a hole there and break a chip out. That would be quite disastrous at this point. Or do that with the hammer. That would also be pretty disastrous. So I think I should have carved this a bit smaller because it is a bit of a monster. But I'll give this a bit of a dust off now and blow down with the compressor. I think it's time to give it a coat of oil. I think I'm just going to go for linseed oil, and because where I've planned for it in the pantry, everything's just treated with linseed oil in there to keep it nice and simple. But yeah, I think it looks alright. I'm not, oh, it's the wrong way up. Not too displeased with that, but I think that's the top. But I quite like it. It's not symmetrical, but it's symmetrical enough to make your eye think it potentially is. Obviously treat the back as well as the front, otherwise you kind of get like unequal moisture, what it can take in on the back compared to the front, and it will cup and move about the place. So I'm just going to use a bit of a rag to the back and the ends, the sides. I mean, I know it's not a perfect piece of wood for carving because it's got blemishes on them, but God, the blemishes look good. Got a brush to get in all the difficult places. So there we go. It was a monster undertaking. I probably should have gone a bit smaller, especially as my deadline was Monday. But I'm really quite pleased with it now. I had finished it, I thought I'd finished it. My eldest daughter came out and she looked at it and she wasn't very happy on the dots on the kind of convex leaves. And she said I should put more on. And I think actually that was probably the right decision. I think it looks a lot better for that. But I'm really pleased with it. It was a fun project to carve. So lots of just kind of hoofing off lots of timber, which I quite enjoy, and kind of just getting flowing shapes. Sanding it was the right decision. It kind of made it all flow more and it's a lot smoother and nicer. And I think for this type of carving, that works really, really well. So if you've watched the end of this video, thank you so much. It means the world to me. And if you've enjoyed this, you might enjoy some of my other carving videos. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.